Okay, so I'll try to be super fast, Agnieszka, I promised. I will either speak faster or just skip information. Okay, the thing is, I'm usually based in Krakow and I'm based in Barcelona now for 3 years. So last year I had this challenge of continuing to teach my students in Krakow, but I had to do it partially online. So what I want to show you today are two things on how I adapted an exercise I used to do in class to have it online and not be too boring for the students and still have some interaction. Those of you who know me, I'm an interactive person, so I could not imagine an online class where I don't get to talk with the students or interact or whatever. So the students who had this class with me, they were continuing from a previous year, so they knew about AVT, they had AVT theory, they had voiceover practical workshops, they had practical subtitling, and last year they were faced with audio description and accessibility. So the first thing, what I want to show you is what they knew before we did the exercise I will show you. They had the first unit, which was very general. I wanted them to see what is accessibility, how it relates to human rights, what do we call people who are impaired or disabled in Polish, is it impairment, disability, and so on and so forth, to give them a background. A second class they had, it was more on awareness and regulation, so it was always my lecture, which is recorded, they see it, then I'm nasty, I have a quiz they have to do, so I know they saw the lecture, and I also asked them to find information about accessibility in Poland for them to experience how much information there is, how easy is it to find, and so on and so forth. And the third class is when I introduce the exercise. It's a bit about AD history, so then again it's me telling them about the history of audio description in a recorded lecture. Then they do reading, and then I introduce a practical task, because they are quite bored by then with reading and listening and all of those things. And I don't know what is your experience with students. My experience is that they don't listen to me. In a sense, I tell them and they go, yeah. So I consider myself to be a nice person on a whole, but I try to be nasty for my students in a way that I poke them and I make them think, and I try to make them discover things, because if they discover on their own, they go, wow, I'm so smart. This is amazing. I figured it out. So that was a bit what I wanted to do. And I think they remember better when they experience it on their own. So after having the history and we went for a practical task. The idea, what I wanted them to see is, although we mainly do films in this particular class, we start off with still images for two reasons. First, it's easier to describe. Second, as a nasty person, I tell them, you prepare this wonderful description and then you have to cut it by half. It's easy for a still picture to prepare an extensive audio description, right? So the first idea is to give them an insight of what are the challenges when you have to draft audio description. I would like them to think about strategies. It's a big thing, and as Isa said, in Poland also the subjectivity is still a big thing. We have two sets of guidelines, so your students, one way or the other, they think they are the Holy Bible, so they're kind of stuck in between. So I thought maybe you can discover this on your own, what works for you. And also I wanted them to experience with accepting feedback, which is not always positive. Because if you're an audio describer or an AVT translator, there is a point when you will be criticized by your project manager or by the audience, so you have to learn to accept it and to work with it. So that was the main objective of the exercise. So there were two tasks. They were asked to prepare two descriptions. You have them in front of you in the handout. They are based on Ania Sadowska completely. You will see this in a moment. There was description 1, and the task was, please listen to this recording and draw the picture. Then I asked the students to upload them on the forum so that we could all see what came out of their descriptions. And only then they were allowed with the Moodle, the Moodle allowed them to access the second description, which was of exactly the same picture, but the description was done differently. Both descriptions are terrible, they're awful. In different ways. I will play them in Polish. You have the English transcript in front of you, or the Polish transcript in front of you as well. They're awful, you'll see. It's not only because I'm voicing them, they're just awful. Can you hear it? No, not really.
Znajduje się okrąg. Po środku okręgu znajduje się pięcioramienna gwiazdka. U dołu okręgu znajduje się mały prostokąt. Wychodzi z niego linia, która łagodnie opada w dół, a potem łagodnie skręca w prawo.
Okay, so Isa was saying this morning that you don't make an image in your head when you listen to audio description. If that is true, I ask you to try to make an image out of this description. I think it's quite impossible, okay? Even if you tried. And the second one?
Rysunek znajduje się na prostokątnej kartce. Kartka ułożona jest w poziomie. W lewym górnym rogu znajduje się okrąg
You can
o
draw.
kształcie jaja o równych czubkach. Ustawiony jest w pionie. Okrąg ma wymiary około 2 cm wysokości i centymetra szerokości w najszerszym i najdłuższym miejscu. Górna krawędź okręgu oddalona jest od górnej krawędzi obrazu o około 0,5 cm. Lewa krawędź okręgu oddzielona jest od lewej krawędzi rysunku o około centymetr. Tuż poniżej dolnej krawędzi okręgu znajduje się niewielki prostokąt.
Okay, to make it, they were both terrible on...
Jest tak blisko
so sorry.
okręgu, że wydaje się do niego niemal przyklejony. Z prawej strony prostokąta wypływa fala. Fala najpierw delikatnie opada w dół, by w połowie swojej wysokości po szerokim, delikatnym łuku zacząć skręcać w prawo. Fala kończy się mniej więcej w połowie wysokości i w połowie długości kartki. Wróćmy teraz do okręgu. Na jego środku znajduje się mała gwiazdka. Środek gwiazdki jest dokładnie na środku okręgu. Gwiazdka ma 5 ramion. Pierwsze skierowane jest pionowo w górę. Drugie i trzecie skierowane jest prosto w lewo i prosto w prawo. Czwarte i piąte skierowane są po skosie w dół w lewo i po skosie w dół w prawo.
Okay, so I saw Robert's face. I'm happy the effect was achieved. He's laughing at me. The idea was, I was a bit inspired in what was happening in audio description of arts, and the first description was very short and concise, okay, not detailed. The other one was very detailed, but the order was completely wrong. We were going back and forward and up and down, and you couldn't figure it out. I did this on purpose because most of the students, when I start off, they think that a detailed description is better. So you put as much detail as possible. This helps people to draw, to imagine, whatever. What I wanted to achieve is for them to see that if you have too much detail, if the information is in the wrong order, it doesn't work at all. And if you have something that's not detailed at all, it doesn't work either. The results. I don't know if you drew something. Those were, as you can see, they are kind of similar, but there are differences between all of them. The original was like this. I don't know if that's what you saw, if that's what you imagined. This is taken from Ania Sadowska article on teaching people how to describe press illustrations. I asked the students to have a discussion on the forum. How easy was it to draw, and what would have made it easier? So, when I asked how easy was it to draw, they had their thoughts on it. So they thought that details are okay. Details make things easier. It's nice if you have some kind of information about the size and the location, so you can position it. And they also discovered that the order of the description was very important. You cannot just go chaotic all over the place. What I really liked, they also discovered that, and those are for me the most important things they discovered. It's not that you should give the size, the placement and so on, but they went more philosophical in a sense. I feel audio description should be about. So sometimes you don't have to be super detailed. Sometimes the under specification is okay. You don't have to, as Isa said, describe every single thing you see in the image, which I think is what students think at the beginning, that they should be describing everything, okay? But the one I really like from the discussion is that they somehow on their own discovered that AD is not linear, whereas we see things. AD is linear, whereas we see things as a whole. I'm super happy with this one because if I told them, AD is linear and you perceive picture as a whole, they would have maybe noted it down and that's it. They wouldn't have reflected upon this. I also like that they discover on their own that if there is too much detail, it's confusing, but too few details, it's not accurate. So I think they kind of arrived to the conclusions I wanted them to arrive to. And they also noticed that we have to consider how much information we should provide. And I think, I love my students. I had the best students in the world this year. But what I think is super important is those are the reflections on AD they had in class 3, third week of audio description. And I think it's absolutely amazing that they kind of got there in class 3 on their own without me telling them that those are important questions in audio description. I also asked them in the discussion what would make it easier. And once again, I think the thoughts they have, they're amazing. I think there are thoughts sometimes you gain after you do a number of audio descriptions in your life. So they realized you should sometimes sacrifice details so that it's approachable, so that you can actually understand audio description, you can enjoy it. Again, it's a lot about details, so they know we shouldn't, they realize we shouldn't omit the crucial things, but it's not about everything, it's about main points, it's about clear and concise, and the order again. So what I really liked about this exercise, just they came to the conclusions it would have taken me ages to explain to them, and I don't think they would be taking them in if it was told by me, rather than it's based on an experience. They experience the nonsense of the descriptions I've provided. And I think it's nice for them as well, because they can say, oh, she prepared this nonsense. Sorry, she's the teacher and she prepared that. It means like, I think they like that part. The follow-up, what we did was, I've asked them to prepare descriptions for those 2 pictures, again from Ania Sadowska. So they prepared descriptions, they prepared recordings, but we also had the discussion in pairs. They brought their descriptions and I've asked them to negotiate in pairs the best possible version, which is also something that we do when we work on audio description as professionals. We always have someone we confront with, or either it's the second audio describer or a person with visual impairment. You can check your ideas against someone. So they discussed it and they prepared the final version. I'm done.
Thank you very much.